Welcome back to The Murderer's Mindset, where we take you deep into the disturbing psychology of those who walk among us as true monsters. Today we're focusing on the case of Wade Wilson, a man whose name is now synonymous with pure evil in Florida, committed two of the most heinous murders in recent memory. His crime spree shocked the entire community and raised the ultimate question: are killers born or made? Wade Wilson, just 29 years old, now faces the ultimate punishment: death. After a trial that spanned nearly 4 years, a Florida jury has decided that Wilson will pay for his crimes on death row.
Wade Stephen Wilson be sentenced as follows. Count 1, first-degree murder of Christine Melton. The defendant is hereby sentenced to death. Count 2, grand theft of a motor vehicle. The defendant is sentenced to 5 years imprisonment in the Florida Department of Corrections. Count 3, battery. The defendant is hereby sentenced to 364 days in the Lee County Jail. Count 4, first-degree murder of Diane Ruiz. The defendant is hereby sentenced to death.
But how did we get here? How did an ordinary young man become the cold-blooded killer responsible for the deaths of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz in October 2019? Buckle up as we delve into this horrifying case. Let's rewind to October 6, 2019. Wade Wilson was out at a local bar called Buddha, a popular hangout in Cape Coral, Florida. There he met Christine Melton, a 35-year-old woman who was just out to have a good time. They drank, partied, and eventually decided to leave together. What started as a casual night of fun would soon turn deadly. The next morning, Christine was asleep in her own home, safe, or so she thought. But while she lay vulnerable, Wade made a deadly decision. He strangled her in her sleep and stole her car, driving away like nothing had happened. This marked the beginning of a 48-hour killing spree that would leave 2 women dead and a community in shock. Later that same day, Wade crossed paths with 43-year-old Diane Ruiz, a woman on her way to work at the Cape Coral Moose Lodge. She was walking along the street when Wade approached her, asking for directions. He lured her into his car, and within moments, Diane found herself fighting for her life. Wade strangled her too, but when she didn't die right away, he made a split-second decision that would cement his status as a monster. Wade pushed Diane out of the car and ran her over, not once, not twice, but multiple times, making sure she was dead. And that wasn't the end of his rampage. Just hours later, Wade would attack another woman, his ex-girlfriend, Mila Mons. The two had a violent history, and when Wade tried to force her into his car, it could have easily been a third murder. But Mila fought back, managing to escape and run for her life. She was injured, bloodied, and terrified.
Tried to pull me in the car physically, and I resisted, got plank style so that he could not grab me into the vehicle.
When you say you got plank style, could you just show the jurors what you mean by that?
And I was being pulled into the car by my dress.
Okay, so for the record, you just stood up and put your hands straight above your head.
Yes, so that I was not being able to be budged into the vehicle.
And you said he's pulling at your dress.
Yes.
Can you describe in more detail how he's pulling at your dress?
He's pulling dress, probably a little hair, everything, and then the dress starts to rip off of my body.
And what happens after that?
Once he realizes that the threads were becoming, I was getting away from him and he was still holding onto the dress, he opens the car door, obviously forgets to put it in park. The car starts to roll forward. He tackles me to the ground. The car grazes both of our legs and I'm pummeled to the ground.
How hard did he push you to the ground?
I'm sorry, I don't recall. This is also fast and he's very heavy and I'm 5'2", he's 6'6", so.
Now, what happens after you are pushed to the ground?
I start to get beat.
Describe what you mean when you say he was beating you.
It all went so fast and so slow, whether it be punches, slapping, choking, that kind of nature. Yes.
Now, you mentioned that the fight is happening around the car. Does the fight move at some point?
Yes, so I either get drugged, pulled, can't remember, by my hair, or arm, or dress, I'm trying to reason with him, trying to talk to him, but there's nobody behind those eyes anymore. So there was no reasoning with him. I got to the front of the staircase, and I'm holding on to that, and a crowd begins to develop. I'm expecting people to help, call 911, so I'm just trying to bide my time at that point as quickly as help can get there, and that's not working either. I'm starting to get punched and grabbed and choked.
Thanks to her quick thinking, police were able to respond immediately, beginning their hunt for Wade. As the police began their investigation, Wade was already on the move, trying to flee the area. He even reached out to his father, Stephen Tester, in a series of bizarre phone calls. Wade confessed to killing 2 people, but his father, knowing Wade's history of drug abuse and exaggeration, didn't believe him at first. Stephen thought it was just another one of Wade's delusions, but as the calls went on, the horrifying truth became clear. Wade described the murders to his father in chilling detail. He admitted to strangling Christine in her sleep and running over Diane with her own car. What's worse, he didn't express a shred of remorse. In fact, Wade seemed almost excited, even proud of what he had done. He told his father he wanted to make Diane's body look like spaghetti, a sickening admission that sent chills down Stephen's spine. Wade wasn't just confessing to murder, he was reveling in it. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Stephen finally alerted the police, giving them Wade's location. On October 8, 2019, just 2 days after the murders, Wade Wilson was arrested. He was hiding out in a house he had broken into, trying to avoid capture. But his time on the run was over. Once in custody, Wade's true nature continued to reveal itself. Jailhouse phone calls recorded Wade mocking his father, denying responsibility, and even talking about pleading insanity. In one conversation, he scoffed at his legal situation, saying, "There's 2 things that'll happen. 1, they'll find me not guilty by reason of insanity, or 2, they'll kill me." Throughout the trial, prosecutors painted Wade as a cold, calculating killer. They argued that Wade knew exactly what he was doing, and his actions were premeditated. Defense attorneys, however, tried to present a different narrative, leaning heavily into Wade's troubled past and drug abuse. They claimed that Wade wasn't fully in control of his actions, that he was acting out of trauma, fueled by drugs and mental illness. But the jury wasn't buying it. After hearing from countless witnesses, including Mila Mons, who bravely recounted her terrifying encounter with Wade, the jury deliberated. On all charges, 2 counts of first-degree murder, grand theft, and battery, Wade was found guilty. And when it came to the death penalty, the jury voted 9-3 in favor. He will now join nearly 300 other inmates on Florida's death row, a fate reserved for the state's most dangerous criminals. But it's important to note that death row is not an immediate sentence. On average, inmates spend about 20 years awaiting execution in Florida. Some have been there since the 1980s, and it's not uncommon for death row inmates to die of natural causes before the state can carry out the death penalty. Wade Wilson's future, while bleak, will likely include years of isolation and little contact with the outside world. Yet, even behind bars, his story continues to attract attention. Wade's commissary is full, thanks to letters and donations from admirers, some of whom are disturbingly drawn to men like Wade. He may be confined, but he's not alone. What drives someone like Wade Wilson to commit such horrific crimes? Was he born with an innate darkness, or did life's traumas push him to the brink? These are questions we may never fully answer, but they're ones we must continue to ask. Wade's lack of remorse, his cold confession to his father, and his chilling behavior in court suggest a man who fully embraced evil. But like so many killers before him, there's always the question, could it have been stopped? As Wade prepares to spend the rest of his life in a cold, isolated cell, we're left to reflect on the lives of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz, two women who never got the chance to escape the nightmare Wade brought into their world. Their families, though somewhat comforted by the verdict, are still grieving the loss of their loved ones. In the end, Wade Wilson got what he deserved. But justice, as we know, rarely feels like enough when it comes to cases like this. Thank you for watching this episode of The Murderer's Mindset. We'll continue to follow this case and provide updates as they come. When Wade Wilson's final execution date is set, we'll be sure to bring you all the details. But until then, we'll leave you with this final thought. When you look into the face of someone like Wade Wilson, what do you see? A monster born or a monster made? At The Murderer's Mindset, we dive deep into the twisted psychology behind some of the world's most chilling criminals. From cold-blooded killers to unsolved mysteries, we break down the motives, the methods, and the madness. Don't miss out on the gripping stories we unravel. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. If you're ready to explore the mind of a murderer, join us as we uncover the disturbing truth lurking behind every crime.